Hey, how's it going, everyone? So we're now working our way into where we're combining the work we've done with Python up to this point in using Python to actually interact with network devices. So in order to do that, you need to have a network device that you can actually interact with. So what I'm going to be going over right now is how to set up a Cisco CSR 1000V, which is nothing more than a Cisco virtual router, in VMware Workstation and get it hooked up to the SDN VM. So here I am in my local VMware Workstation. So the CSR 1000V is available to download on Canvas. I've already downloaded it right there. So I'm going to go ahead and import it because it is exported as an OVA, which is Open Virtualization Format, and it allows us basically not to have to create the VM from scratch. So I'll go to File, Open, go to my Downloads section where I've just downloaded the Cisco CSR 1000V. So I'll select that and click Open. I'm going to go ahead and do a new name, so I will do Cisco 1000V. Select Next, and I'm going to go ahead and leave all of these options as their defaults. Okay, so the CSR 1000V was successfully imported. It says loading stage 2, press any key to continue. I'll go ahead and just continue and let it boot up. And if I remember correctly, this portion does take a while. So while I'm waiting, I'll go ahead and fire up the SDN VM, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it is ready for the Cisco CSR 1000V. So in order to do that, what I need to do is set up a virtual network on VMware Workstation. So there you can see Grub has been loaded. All right, cool. So everything's going well. So what I need to do is come into Edit, Virtual Network Editor, and then that opens up the Virtual Network Editor in another window. Most of the time you need administrative privileges in order to do anything with it. So on your Horizons machine, you should have at least 2 networks. The important thing is, though, that we go over what it is that each of these settings actually mean. So I'm going to go ahead and take a quick screenshot. Clipboard, pull it over. Okay, so each of these VM nets is its own VLAN, and we've got different types. So host only means that that network is not going to have access to the internet. NAT means that it's going to share the IP address of the local host system, and the local host system will NAT anything in that network to its own IP address, and so that would mean, you know, externally that it would appear as though all the traffic is coming from your local system. So I've got quite a few host-only networks in here. You can see that they're connected. And then we have the option to have DHCP either enabled or disabled, and we have the subnet defined here all the way on the right. So in your Horizons machine, you should at least have one NAT network and hopefully one host-only or private network. And what's important to know here is whether or not DHCP is enabled and what the subnet is. So I can identify the subnet right here, and down at the bottom it gives me the subnet IP and then the subnet mask. You do not have administrative access on your Horizons machine, so you cannot add on the Horizons machines. If you are working on your local machine or you would like to set up your lab on a lab on your local machine, you can just come into change settings. There it prompts me for administrative privilege. It opens up virtual network editor again. But now you can see I can actually select these and I could make some changes if I wanted to. So you can come in here, add and remove a network. You can rename it. Right here you have host only, connect VMs internally in a private network. That means that the network is only going to be shared with the host machine. No internet access for a host only connection. NAT, and it says right there, shared host IP address with VM. So that means that the host is going to NAT anything in, so let's look at the NAT example. 192.168.75 is the subnet IP, and then the mask is a /24. And then it says NAT, share host IP address with the VMs. That means any VM in this network or attached to this network will get an address in this IP address range because DHCP is enabled on this network. But if they go out to the internet, they are going to then NAT to the host's IP address that the host uses to connect to the internet. And then your last option is bridged, which basically bypasses that NAT and allows you internet access. So if I chose bridged for my virtual machine, it would get an IP address on whatever network the host is actually connected to. Okay, so now that we've gone over that, it looks like the Cisco CSR 1000V is, yep, it's loaded. And I'll do enable. All right. And right now, nothing should work really. So let me come over here, and to get out of here, so like right now I'm moving my mouse around, but it's not letting me out of the command line. You do a Control-Alt, and that releases your pointer. Come over to the Cisco 1000V, and I'll look at my settings. And here you can see I have 3 network adapters all set to bridge, which connects directly to the physical network, which is not what I want. So I'm going to power this down now that we've confirmed that it's up. And that shuts down the Cisco 1000V. Then I'm going to come over to the SDN VM, and I will edit my virtual machine settings, and for my network adapter you can see I have this set to bridge, connect directly to the physical network, so no natting, and it's not a private address space. But what I want in here is to make this to set this to a private address space. So what I'm going to do is I could either alter this one and choose any one of these networks that I have in here, or I can add another one. So I'll go ahead and add another one. Network adapter finish. There it says network adapter 2, and that one is set to NAT, but that is not what I want. And had that one unbridged. Okay. So I'm going to select custom, and I'll just do VMnet 1. So we'll select that one, and if we go back here, VMnet 1, the IP address range is 192.168.11.0. Okay, and a 2/24 subnet mask. So now I've added that second network adapter. Hit OK, and then you can see it changed. So if I even wanted to verify, I can see my new network adapter for VMnet 1 and bridged, which connects me directly to the physical network. Now I need to put an interface on the Cisco CS1000V router in the same network. So I'm going to select this network adapter, come down here to custom, and then I'm going to select the same VM network, VMnet 1, host only. I'll go ahead and just leave the other network adapters as bridged for now because I'm really not too concerned about them. Because we only need one IP address that we can actually connect to from the SDN VM. So I'll just go ahead and do OK right there. And now I'll fire up the Cisco 1000V again. And I'll also fire up the SDN VM. Now, while we're waiting for those to load, you will notice that this is not a DHCP enabled network. It means the hosts are not going to get their IP addresses dynamically from any DHCP server, so we have to assign them ourselves. So what we'll also do real quick here is we'll open up a web browser, and let's go and see how to set static IP on Ubuntu. I always like to right click. Usually I'll actually open up even a couple, but this looks like it's just a newer version of Ubuntu because they all come from this same Linuxize website, so it just looks like this is updated for the 20.0.4 release version. And then we can come down here, and it says Ubuntu uses NetPlan as its network management tool. All right, so I could also come through here and read all of this, but what I will do is come back to the virtual machine. All right, looks like that one's good to go. CSR 1000V is still booting up, but I'll go ahead and log into the SDN VM. Whoops, I had the wrong password. All right, let's see how the 1000V is doing. Looks like it's almost there. All right, it's enabled and it is up. All right, cool. So let's go over to the SDN VM again, and let's go ahead and set its static IP address. So this is Ubuntu Desktop, which allows you to do it via graphical user interface, but it is also very important that you know how to come in here and set it up via the command line as well. You can see that they have now switched to a YAML format, so let's go ahead and check out if this path here exists. So that would be the path is etc netplan 01 netconfig.yaml. So let's see if that is on here. I'll pop open a terminal. Make that bigger. Okay, so it was etc netplan, and then we can just do a tab. Whoop. Okay, let's go ahead and just see what's in the entire directory. That's the only thing that's in there. Sweet, that makes it easy. So what we can do now is do a sudo, and I'll go ahead and use nano etc netplan, and then 01 config manager. Let network manage all devices on this system. All right, that doesn't help. Ethernet. Okay, I would need to check out the version that we are actually using on Ubuntu and do a little more troubleshooting, because I should be seeing a lot more information in here. No problem. Basically, Ubuntu just swapped from its traditional method of managing the IP addresses to a couple of different commands. So we'll just go ahead and knock it out in the GUI real quick. So I've got two networks, and actually I should have left that open. I'll make that bigger, because we can check out our network. So we can see right here that we've got ENS33 as one network adapter, and it got an IP address of 192.168.1.19, which is my home network, my local area network. And then we've got another one for ENS37, and then we have one for Docker, because we will be doing some stuff with Docker later. But we've got this interface right here, this 37, so we can just come over here to the network. 37 is off, so we'll go ahead and connect it, and it says connecting. But we'll go to wired settings, pull up the settings, connected, ENS37, select settings, connect automatically, make available, name, MAC address, IP version 4, it's set to automatic DHCP, but there is no DHCP on this network, so we will just go ahead and enter it in. And our IP address is 192.168.11 with a /24 subnet mask. So do 192.168.11. Whoops, come on. 192.168.11, and then I'll do the SDN VM will be IP address 10. Net mask is 255.255.255.0, and then the gateway is going to be 192.168.11.1. All right, that works. I'll probably leave everything else alone because I doubt I'll have to do anything with DNS or anything like that for this network adapter, and the route to the CSR 1000V should be local since it's directly connected. So I'll just go ahead and hit apply, and then come back here and we'll run that IP address command again, verify that we have an IP address in here, which we do. Okay, so let's come over to the Cisco 1000V. And actually, you know what? I am going to open, because I can't make this any bigger. It's reading this as a serial terminal, so I'm going to go ahead and connect to it. So I'll do a show IP interface brief command real quick, and I've got 3 interfaces. Okay. First thing I need to do, though, is I need to give you something that you can see it better. Let me see if I can't actually do the view settings. I was going to use a terminal emulator to connect to it real quick. Okay, that's a little bit better. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. So now we need to configure the router for an IP address, and we also need to enable SSH and configure the ability to log into the device. So I'll do a conf-t and interface gigabit Ethernet 1, which I'm assuming is that first virtual interface, and we will do IP address. We'll do this one as 192.168.11, and we'll do .11 255.255.255.0. I'll even put a description on here, link to SDN VM. I'll no shut the interface, bring it down, show IP interface brief. All right, so it is down and down. Give it a second here, there it goes. All right, so now we are up and up, great. So I've only got one interface that's up. Let's come back over to the SDN VM and verify that we can ping. Whoops, what happened? All right, so let's verify we can ping that, 192.168.11.11. I can ping it, sweet. And even if for good measure, I wanted to come over here and see if I can't ping the SDN VM. Success rate is 100%. So we have IP connectivity at this point. But what we would like to do is SSH into this router and configure it or back it up. So in order to do that, since this is a blank router, I need to configure it for SSH and login. So I will do a user question mark, username question mark, all right, SDN student. And then I'm going to give a privilege of 15, which is the highest privilege you can have on a Cisco device. I do this because that way when we SSH in, it automatically drops us into the privileged exec mode. So I'll do privilege 15, and then secret, we will do Python 123. Now I've configured a username and password. Failed attempts reset by console. Let me do show run pipe section username and see if it took. Okay, it did take that. All right, not sure what that error is in. So we need to configure it for SSH. So to configure SSH, we do a crypto key and we generate RSA modulus, and then it should be, yep, I'll do 2048. And that should be good because it's giving me the carriage return option, which is that CR at the bottom. Except I accidentally hit another key. Please define a host name other than router. Okay, so let's set a host name, and we will do SDN router, just SDN router. How about that? SDN router. Okay. Now let's see what happens. Please define a domain name first. Okay, so I could even just do DOM question mark, and it says domain question mark default or word domain name. So we will do domain equals lab or sdn.local. We'll do sdn lab.local. Exit out of here. Now let's try and generate those keys again. Please define it. I just did. I think the command, yeah, IP domain name. Sorry, I did it wrong. Different version of Cisco is all. And so we did SDN VM SDN lab.local. Try and generate those keys again. There we go. All right, so crypto engine for SDN router, SDN lab.local has been generated or imported by the crypto engine. Okay. So now I need to configure my virtual terminal line. So line VTY, and I'll do 0 to 5 to configure 5 of them. Transport input SSH, and the login method is going to use the local username and password. I'll end. WR for write, which is going to save my configuration. Okay, I could have also done a copy run to start, but I just like that WR because it's faster. Now I'm back over on the SDN VM. We verified that we can ping. Let's go ahead and make sure we can still do that. Okay, we can. So now I will try to SSH in with the credentials that we just configured. So SDN student at 192.168.11.11. Unable to negotiate with 192.168.11.11, port 22, no matching key, exchange method found. Their offer, Diffie-Hellman. Okay, so you should have seen this on the last lecture that I did. So again, you can always do a SSH and then the help option to see what your options are. Nothing there is really sticking out at me as far as like saying key, but it does say option down there with a O. So I can do a man SSH, come down to the options, the O options, and then there I can see this starts with KEX algorithm, so that sounds pretty close. So I'll just go ahead and give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? So I'll do SSH O, and it was KEX algorithms, and I just did tab. It filled it in for me. And I'll grab their offer. Copy. It hit enter for me automatically. So I'll paste their offer in. And now let's go ahead and try SDN student at 192.168.11.11. Yes, I do. Password Python 123. And now you can see I'm SSH'd into the router that we just configured, and I can even see the name right there. I can do a show SSH, should take that, show SSH, and you can even see there that SDN student now has an SSH session with this router. So that is how you set up the Cisco CSR 1000V, again, which is available on Canvas in VMware Workstation so that we can connect to it on a private network between the SDN VM and the 1000V. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you.